All right, so we've made it through the sign up process. We've got our confirmation email. We clicked on the link and it took us to this page. And so here we are. We are going to select that I am a pilot because we are going to make a map. It will just kind of walk you through some of the key areas, some of the tabs that you might encounter or use while you are operating in this system. So we got the project. It's going to ask you to create a project. We want to go to 38501. As a matter of fact, we can type in 2390 Gainsboro grade, Cookeville, Tennessee. All right, that's 2390 Gainsboro grade, Cookeville, Tennessee. And we are going to click enter. Oh, let me get back on there, click enter. And it's going to take us to Shipley Farm. All right. And so we can move our map. We can just grab a hold of it just like we would with our mouse. And we're going to put this map right over the farm. And we're going to click create project here. So click. We will name this project Shipley Farm. And again, you can name this project whatever you like. I'm just kind of going through this to give you an idea, just to keep everyone kind of on the same page. But at some point in time, obviously, you're going to make maps that are going to be in different locations. But for right now, let's just do Shipley Farm. No, we don't need to do all that. All right, so we can just scroll our mouse to zoom out if we need to. We can zoom in. This is very intuitive. I really like the user interface with this. Okay, next we have over here, we can do certain special types of maps. For us, we want to do standard. So standard, create a map and model. Click on standard. All right, we might need to zoom out a little bit more so that we can get our rectangle situated appropriately. And so this user interface allows us to create a map, and we are allowed to draw these. And notice that you can see we have, let's zoom in that out. There are these plus signs that we can then use to basically make the map, like the dimensions of the field, to whatever we want to. So we're not just stuck with a square. It's preferred to just fly in a square, but it might be that you don't need all of that area. And sometimes I'll tend to fly a little bit more than I'm supposed to, just because I would rather have that area and not need it than need it and not have it. And so you'll notice that I'm really just kind of making large, broad kind of shapes along the edge of that. I want to capture this road. It gives me a really good idea of where I am. And again, I would rather have it, not need it, than need it and not have it. All right, so the map doesn't necessarily need to be perfectly like mine, just to give you a demonstration of kind of how you can draw this map. All right, so once we have our map, what this is showing us is the start point is going to be way back here on the back end, and the pattern that the drone will fly will be where these lines are, and it will take pictures as it's flying this path. All right. And so if you'll notice on the left-hand side of the screen, there's going to be some information that we can use to manipulate the pattern of the drone. So over here on the left, it tells us how long it's going to take that flight to be, how many acres that we're covering, and then also how many pictures and how many batteries. And I'm going to click on advanced, and I know that I'm going to fly this. Let me go back and show y'all what I did there. All right, so I clicked on advanced. And I'm going to down here on the planning camera. This camera is actually going to be the DJI Air 2S. And this is just for me. I'm going to set those, I'm going to make those manual settings inside of the drone. This isn't necessarily important for you necessarily. As you start to do this more, you'll recognize when and where you need to do this. I know that the last time I tried to fly this mission, I had some exposure issues and I could not get the focus to work properly, and therefore my mission wouldn't fly. All right, so now notice that our time has changed, and now I only have 2 batteries worth of time. And this is really based on the flight, or the height and the altitude of the flight. So let me get back out of this advanced settings. I just want to get back to regular. Notice here this flight altitude. And so we want to put our flight altitude at about 390 feet. Now watch what happens to the flight pattern. Oh, that mouse got really big. And then also watch what happens over here to how many minutes it takes to fly this pattern. So we're going to put 390 feet in our resolution. We could also do that with the slider bar, but we want to make, we want to get that pretty accurate, and you can just make it quick as well. Slider bars are cool, but if you have the opportunity to hit that number and put it in there exact, that's what we want to do. So again, watch what happens to the flight pattern. Notice the distance now changed, and then also that my flight time decreased. So as we increase the altitude of the drone, we are capturing a larger area known as the field of vision. So think about how much you can see from 1 foot off the ground, how much area, versus if you were 10 foot off the ground, versus if you were 100, and then also 400. You'd be able to see a lot more of that area. So having that at 390 feet, especially over some large area like 40 or 50 acres, it would take us forever to fly that field. So what we want to do is we want to be able to fly that field efficiently, and also with the least amount of pictures and the least amount of battery. And since it's a large area, then we are going to fly that pretty high up in the sky. All right, next, we're going to go into advanced again. And we had our automatic settings, which just automatically does the overlap. But what we want to do is we want to change the flight direction. And what that flight direction is going to do is it's going to change the path or the pattern of the drone. And so it might just be that it's more efficient to fly it one way than it is the other. I tend to use this if I want to adjust where my start pattern is. So I know that I'm going to start flying that. I'm going to fly this map from this location. So I'm okay if that drone starts at the furthest point, but how efficient is it think about the time that it takes for all of these turns. That wouldn't necessarily be the most efficient way to fly my pattern. So what I'm going to do is go into flight direction, and I'm going to use the slider bar, and I'm going to adjust my pattern. Notice how the start point went from here to here. And if I continue to adjust that pattern, now notice that I have the flight pattern, the path has started from here. So I'm not really concerned about where it starts from. It's only going to be 10 minutes. I know that I can make it around the farm in plenty of time. But what I am concerned about is the efficiency of that flight pattern to make sure that it collects all of the data. So let's try this at 0 just to kind of see what happens. 0, enter. All right, so now I have a very straight pattern, and I know that I'm going to collect all of this imaging, and I'm not going to have as many turns as, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 15 turns total. And notice how much my time went down on my battery, and also the number of images that I'm collecting. I might want to take this flight speed maybe down to about 15. Oh, only reducing less flying in the low light. All right, 20 miles an hour. We know that we're going to do this. The gimbal is going to automatically point down, so we're not really too concerned with that. All right, so we're going to go back to our advanced settings. Let's come up to map plan. We're going to rename this, and this is going to be Shipley. All right, I'm going to add another map because I'm going to fly another mission while I am there. So within this, think about that this project can have multiple maps within it. So notice that we can do this one of two ways. We can either move, well, I guess we have to move the map, and then we're going to grab this square. I'm going to zoom out a little bit because I know that I'm actually going to cut this up into 2 sections, into 2 maps, just because it'll be easier to fly, maybe. All right, I'm going to grab this one. I'm going to bring it over here. I'm actually going to bring this pretty much over here, kind of square. I'm going to catch over this road. I'll catch over Gainsborough grade. And what that's going to do is I will now be able to link all of these pictures together, because those pictures will overlap. Again, notice how close the flight pattern is. And we are going to change this to 390. And I do 390 because the max altitude that I can fly the drone is 400 feet above the tallest structure that I'm flying. And so while Heidelbergs may be, 10 or 12 feet tall, I'm just want to make sure that I stay within the regulations and make that 390 feet. Come on. There we go. I'm going to zoom that in a little bit. And we can actually adjust this a little bit and get maybe a little bit straighter if you're nitpicky like I am. But when I make my next map, all I'm going to do is just basically move that over and make sure that I overlap all of mine. Areas. All right, there we go. All right, so now I've got a nice perfect square. I'm going to fly the length of the field, and I will probably fly this from here. And so notice that, or maybe I fly it from in Heidelberg, inside the parking lot, so that I can actually keep eye on that. And so it will start here and it will fly its pattern. We only expect it to do about 15 minutes. If I wanted to, I could change it so that it flies the furthest point away. So in the future, if you're ever thinking about how do I want to fly my drone, you want to start at the furthest point, because you would hate to run out of battery when that drone is the furthest away from you. So I tend to start from the furthest point and try and work my way back, so that if for some reason I'm flying an area that is going to be 150 acres and I need multiple batteries, I know that I'm going to work my way back to this area, right? So I would start from this probably from this point here. If I were flying there, I would want to make that start point over there. So again, we're going to come into advanced. We got a couple of things we need to do. We're going to look at our planing camera, and we're going to make that the DJI Air 2S. That's going to give me some changes in my flight path. I'm going to take off automatic settings, and I am going to come to flight direction. And I'm going to move this around, basically negative, and see if it'll start. See if I can keep going that a little bit more. I'm trying to get that start pattern, trying to get that start at the other end. This does not look like it wants to quite. There we go. All right, now we're getting somewhere. It can be a little tricky. All right, I'm pretty good with that. So that looks like that is going to be at about negative 80 or negative 90 degrees. We'll go ahead and type in there and make that negative 90. I'm just going to pull this back over, make that a little more square. There we go. So now I know that I'm going to capture everything. It's going to start here in the middle, and it'll capture everything. Oh, I'm just too picky for that. Whatever. We're going to start there, okay? We're going to start down here at this end. We'll make sure that we fly this path, and notice that, you know, if I get about 3 or 4 paths done, if I wanted to, I could bring my drone back either here at this top, which is going to be close because I'll probably fly this from the middle of the parking lot. Or if not, on the way back, I would be able to complete this leg and then it would fly back here. All right, so this is going to be at least the first 2 maps that you are going to receive, at least the pictures for these 2 maps. Advanced settings. And I guess just while I'm here, we'll show some other things. So we have advanced settings. And then let's say if we were wanting to get a 3D image of this building, right? Let's say we were wanting to get a 3D model of this whole entire farm. We could do a perimeter, and then now it will take pictures in a rotation around so that it captures more of a head-on view. If we really wanted to get high resolution, very detailed 3D, we would do a crosshatch. And so basically this will then fly the other way, and it will pick up anything we might have missed maybe in the shadows of the trees, but you will increase your flight time. See if it shows that. Nope, it does not. All right. So out of advanced settings. Doesn't look like it's going to influence our flight time too much. There's our enhanced CD 3D, notice we have the crosshatch, so it'll fly at one direction, then fly at the other, and then it'll come around and do all the way around. And notice that we basically doubled our flight time from 13 minutes to about 30 minutes. And we can expect that we're going to have to bring a battery back at some point in time. So just to be aware that if any increases that you do, the more pictures that you take, the more data that you're trying to collect, the better resolution that you're going to pay for that in time and battery. So just to kind of be aware of those things. We'll take a look at this request for Lance. This is basically if you were in an area, maybe near an airport, or if you were in a zone where aircraft might be, you might need to get authorization to be in that airspace. We don't have that problem, especially not out in the country at Heidelberg's, because we're so far out in the country. We would not run into any of that. Well, let's just look at the airspace here while we got it. This is mostly our map, and we would not get into any airspace until we were really on campus. And as we zoom out, you can see here we have an airport at Crossville, and then over here in Nashville and Smyrna. If we were in these locations, we would probably look to request that Lance. If you take the drones class, I go over this a little bit further. But for the most part, what we're just going to do with this is I'm going to fly this drone. I'm going to capture these pictures, and you'll be able to upload them into DroneDeploy and make the map, and then we'll be able to do some things to process that imagery. All right, so I'm going to zoom back in there. We can X out of this. All right, so there we have it. We have two maps that we can, we're basically going to stitch both of these maps together because we are taking one on the right side of the road and then one on the left side of the road, and it's just probably wiser to break those up rather than trying to fly all of those at one time. Plus, we need to be able to keep eye contact, at least visual sight of that drone, and this is probably the easiest way. This is how I would do it. All right, in the next video, after I fly this, we're going to show you how to upload these and then process them as well.